Hi there, this is Jill Coleman with jillstamps.com, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Stampin' Up's new alcohol-based marker called Stampin' Blendabilities. And you might be asking, what's the difference in alcohol markers versus your standard water-based markers? And the difference is just the absolute beautiful blending and saturation that you can get with the alcohol-based markers. The colors just blend nicely. You don't get the streaking effect that you might get with some of the water-based markers, and so that's really the difference. And many of you might already be familiar with another brand or two of alcohol-based markers, and Stampin' Up! Blendabilities is the newest brand for Stampin' Up! And I just wanted to show you some comparison, some differences, some tips, and answer some questions that I've received from some of my clients as they've been expecting the release of Stampin' Blendabilities. So let's get started. And if at the end of the video you watch this and you still have some questions, I would love if you left a comment below the video and ask some more questions, and maybe that will prompt a second one with some more Q&A time. So with Stampin' Blendabilities, a few things you're going to need. You've got your markers. You'll need a Memento Tuxedo Black ink pad and some Whisper White cardstock. Those are the suggested products to put together to create the best result, and I'll let you know a little reasons why. Some of you might ask, why Memento Tuxedo Black? Why this new ink pad? Why not my Stays-On black ink pad? And the reason for that is a Memento Tuxedo Black ink pad is a water-based ink pad. Stays-On is an alcohol-based ink pad. And when you combine alcohol-based ink pads with an alcohol pen, what's going to happen, like in this video, in this, project, I don't know if you can see that very well with the lighting, your edges, once you blend your markers over your stamped image starts to blur. It starts to bleed out. And so alcohol on alcohol, those two products together just don't work well. So that's why you want to use the water-based ink pad with the alcohol-based markers. So keep with Memento Tuxedo Black. Whisper White cardstock. Really nice. It's our high-quality white cardstock. It's a real fine mill. And someone might say, you might ask, why not some of our more rough blended papers, or why not our watercolor paper, being that we're kind of blending anyway with the markers and the technique. And I'll show you reasons for that. This is one of our Naturals white cardstock. And if you can see that with the light, what happens is alcohol-based markers in and of themselves, they are a little bit free-flowing. They like to spread out a little bit when you first apply color, even color on the Whisper White cardstock. When you have a rougher milled textured cardstock, now it's really going to spread. And it's sometimes kind of hard to contain the color where you want, and I don't think you're going to get the result. So that's Naturals white, and you can kind of see how it blurred outside the lines. And with our watercolor paper, the actual stamped image kind of bleeds a little bit. And so you don't have a nice crisp line to your stamped image. So again, Memento Tuxedo Black, Whisper White cardstock are going to be the two products you'll want to put together for the best result when using Stampin' Blendabilities. And let's talk a little bit about the markers themselves. I'm going to use, just for this video, use the real popular new stamp that Stampin' Up! Came out with our new catalog. It's called Blended Bloom. It's a single stamp, wood mounted, and it's just a great one to play with when you're first getting started with Blendabilities because of the nice open edges. It gives you some room to work and play. And so we'll use that today. So Stampin' Blendabilities themselves, they come in color sets of 3. When you buy for $11.95, you'll get 3 markers. They have a light, a medium, and a dark in the collection, and they're marked just so. If you can see this, it says light, medium, and dark there. So the color selection is already done for you. You've got 3 colors that work real great together and give you that blending across the color line. So those come together like that. The Blendability markers are not refillable, so you know that. They have a dual tip. One tip is a bullet tip. You can see that. Let me put it here against the white. You can see a bullet tip. And the other tip is a brush. I'll show you that against the white as well. So those are your 2 tips that come on the Blendabilities markers. The caps are very tight fitting, and that's because the alcohol-based markers dry very quickly, and you don't want them to dry out. So these are real tight. So one suggestion I have is when you replace the caps, place it down on your tabletop and then slide the caps on. And that way you make sure to get them aligned properly. They're not going to get misaligned and squish, excuse me, your tip, but it lines it nice and neatly. So, and the other thing is to store these flat, and that way it keeps equal ink coming to both tips. So there is that. And they're a nice rectangle shape. That way they're not rolling around on your countertop. And the other thing that's different about Stampin' Blendabilities markers is that they have a nylon tip rather than a polyester tip. And so nylon tips really stand up a lot better to fraying as you use them. So some little features of Stampin' Blendabilities markers. And now let me just show you a technique. Again, if you're already familiar with alcohol-based markers, you might already have some techniques that you use, and I'm meaning whether you're working from light to dark or dark to light. I'm certified in another alcohol-based marker, and I found that the technique I learned with that marker is just not one I like to use with Blendabilities markers. So when using Blendabilities, you might have to play a little bit and find out which way you like best, but I really prefer the dark to light, and I really get great results with that. So working dark to light, I'll just grab a color collection. I guess we'll grab the Cool Caribbean here, and I will grab the dark marker. With Stampin' Blendabilities markers, I prefer to work with a bullet tip. So I'll just in the most basic way to color a flower oftentimes is dark in the center of the petal and work your way out to the light. And so you like to work in little circular motions. And again, it's kind of a free flow, nothing too nice and neat. Make sure to cap between each use. But the other thing you want to do is always work a little quickly. You like this wet edge. That's where your blending comes. If you can kind of grab that wet edge of the pen when you apply the next color, and you see that with this medium color, I started halfway into the dark, and that way it blends my line between medium and dark. And now I'll grab my lightest color in this collection and start in there and just begin to pull down. Pulling that color, blending that line between light and medium, and fill that in. If you don't get the blend you like, just come back in. Do some more pulling down of that color. And again, those alcohol-based markers are just great in the fact that they just saturate your paper with a great true color, not a lot of streaking. And the other cool thing is you can just keep going. You can keep layering on color. You don't get the pilling, the little paper peeling up that you get with water-based markers. And it's going to dry a little bit lighter. It'll blend out nice once it dries. You can kind of see how that just blended out nicely. And it looks a little bit when it dries, and if you need to come back and add more, if you didn't get enough dark in there and you want to come back with more, you can do that. You never have a fear of getting too much wet in that it's going to pill up your paper and start some damage. And when you get done, you really want to see that on the back. You might panic a little bit and think, oh no, my pen's soaking through. That's what you want to see. That is good saturation with your markers. And even on this, you can see where the dark, medium, and light, and see how I did the blending on that. So it's just it's a practice technique. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of playtime. I worked with this with my downline last week, and it was just play. From their first petals to their last, there was a complete difference, and they got a lot of confidence in doing that. The one other product that comes with Stampin' Blendabilities markers is what we're calling our Color Lifter Pen. And it's not really a lifter. I would say it's more of a pusher. It pushes your color. And there's two ways that you can use that kind of when you first get started. Again, dual tipped, bullet and brush. Two things you can do. If you want to highlight portions of your stamped and colored image, you can come out. If you want to highlight this, it'll push color away and bring a lightness. The other thing that's great for is if you're on the outside of your image and your color got a little bit outside your line, you can just push back towards that stamp line, and it's not going to completely take away the color, but it will lighten it up and clean it up for you if you like that clean edge. And so that's the color lifter. And you can see how I applied that. Now we've got even a lighter edge on this petal. And so it's just another portion of the blendabilities that you can play with to create even a more different look. So just keep playing with your blendability markers. These are just some of my first projects that I've created with them, and it's been a lot of fun. I would say in the recent years I haven't been much of a coloring fan. I'm a stamp and go kind of girl, but with Stampin' Blendabilities markers, I honestly want to sit and color all day. It's a lot of fun. It makes you feel like an artist, and it's fun to just keep playing and adding and correcting it if you don't like it without fear of ruining your project. You can just keep adding color and taking it away. So these are Stampin' Blendability markers from Stampin' Up! I hope you enjoy this. Again, if you have any more questions that I can help with regarding blendabilities, leave a comment below or email me. If you'd like to join me again, I'm over at my blog, jillstamps.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Thanks so much for being here today. Bye-bye.